Panasonic AG-AC30. This video is divided into chapters, so feel free to skip to any chapter in the video to find exactly what you need. You can find a link to each chapter in the description. Right out of the bag, you will find the camera, the lens cap, a battery, and a charger. You are responsible for these items and their condition. To operate the camera, you will need your own SD card. Ensure it is class 10. To turn the camera on, you need to plug in the battery. Make sure the prongs on the battery are facing down and towards the camera. You insert it in the battery slot of the camera and slide it down until you hear a click. To release the battery, hit the button that says push and slide the battery up and out. Once you have the battery in place, you can put in your SD card. It only goes in one way. If it does not go in, do not force it. Turn it the other way until it goes in. Do not eject it until the camera is turned off. With the battery and SD card in, it is time to turn the camera on. The right side of the camera has a switch that says off and on and has a red and gray button. To turn the camera on, you need to click the gray button in and hold it as you slide the switch to on. Do not use force. If the switch isn't sliding, the button is not pressed in. You will see a red light when the camera is on. To see what is going on, you have two options, the viewfinder and the LCD monitor. To use the monitor, pull it out until you hear a click and twist it until you see it. Do not use force. Now for a more in-depth explanation of the camera's functions. Let's start with focus. When shooting a subject, zoom all the way into their eyes and hit the focus mode button until your monitor says MF followed by a number. Now, as you rotate the focus ring, the focus shifts towards and away from the camera. Rotate until you see the subject in focus. To zoom, you have three options, the zoom ring, the zoom button on the top, and the zoom button on the right of the camera. Each button has two options, T for telephoto and W for wide. Hitting T zooms in and hitting W zooms out. You can see your level of zoom here on the monitor. The iris ring lets you change the size of your aperture. To adjust it, hit the iris button until you do not see this section of the monitor say STD. Now, you can open and close the iris with the ring. This adjusts how much light is being let into the camera. The lower the f-stop number, the more light is being let in. The higher the f-stop, the less light. As for the LCD monitor button, it allows you to switch between the monitor and the viewfinder. If you do not see anything where you are trying to look, click this button to switch between them. The button labeled B light lets you see your exposure or zebra in the monitor. This button has been manually programmed in each camera to affect your zebra settings. Anything that is overexposed at or beyond the set percentage will have black and white stripes. It also allows you to see the luminance in a percentage. Zebra 1 is anything at or above 90%, and Zebra 2 is anything at 100% or overexposed. The marker creates a little box in the middle of the frame and gives a percentage on the left of the monitor, showing the brightness level. The black and white stripes shown with this on will not be recorded in your final shot. The on-camera stabilization button allows the camera to adjust for shakiness. When it is on, the viewfinder will look like this. When it is off, it will look like this. Choose whether the scene you are filming requires it. The gain button allows you to switch between automatic and manual gain. The gain feature will allow you to electronically brighten your image even if the iris is open all the way. The gain will brighten your video, but you will sacrifice quality and introduce noise or grain. To increase the gain or gain up the camera, press the gain button until you see a number on the viewfinder followed by dB. The higher the number, the brighter the image, but also the noisier the image, so only gain up the camera when necessary, or if you want the desired effect of noise in your video. The white balance button tells the camera what color white is. This allows every other color to look as close to accurate as you can get. It has multiple options. In the monitor, the white balance mode is seen here. You can choose between automatic and manual by clicking the white balance button. When in manual mode, there is A channel, B channel, preset 3200 Kelvin, preset 5600 Kelvin, and variable. To set the white balance, go to either A channel or B channel and zoom in on something white until it fills the whole frame. Then, click and hold the white balance button until you see WB set in the monitor. Now, your image has accurate colors. It can hold two white balances, one per each channel at a time. This is good for going between two different lighting scenarios, such as indoors and outdoors. The 3200 Kelvin preset is the default option for indoor lighting, and the 5600 preset is a default option for outdoor lighting. The variable option allows you to dial in the exact color temperature of your white balance to fit your needs. To do this, go to Variable, click the selector wheel in, and scroll until you get to the number you want. When you are done, click the wheel in again to finalize it. The shutter button switches between automatic and manual shutter speeds. They are measured in a fraction in this section of the monitor. To adjust, use the scroll wheel and click in when you have dialed it to your liking. The bigger the fraction, such as 1/8, the slower the shutter and the more light is let into the camera. The smaller the fraction, such as 1/8000th, the faster the shutter and the less light is let into the camera. When the fraction is big, you introduce blur to your video. Anything moving will have trails following it. These trails begin to disappear the smaller the fraction gets. Some professors recommend a shutter speed of 1/60th, or you can consider 1/30th if it's dark. However, if you're outdoors, go higher if it is sunny. The automatic mode switch allows you to switch between automatic mode and manual mode. If you are not able to change anything manually, even after hitting the buttons to change them, make sure this switch is on manual mode. You can also see this icon on the monitor when it is in automatic mode. Automatic mode will not always give the quality you want for your project. It is not magic. Many professors require manual mode for their projects. Always ask your professor ahead of time what they expect from you. Now for the audio panel. Think of it as 4 different sections. The top left is for the first input located here on the camera. The bottom left is for the second input located here on the camera. On this left side, you can adjust what type of input it is: line, mic, or 48V. Line input is for things like a DVD player, a TV set, or mixing consoles. It requires no amplification. Mic input adds additional amplification to allow a microphone to be heard in the camera. Plus 48V means 48 volts, also called phantom power. Some microphones require phantom power to be used. To know if your microphone does, look for plus 48V or the word phantom power on the microphone. When in doubt, ask the person in the checkout room or your professor ahead of time. The top right section here controls channel 1 audio. The bottom right section controls channel 2 audio. You can see the meter for these here on the viewfinder. This switch allows you to choose what input goes into the channel. The top is the internal camera mic, the middle is input 1, and the bottom is input 2. Remember, you may choose to record either mic 1 or mic 2 in channel 1. Likewise, you may in channel 2. This means your input 1 does not necessarily only record in channel 1, and input 2 does not necessarily only record in channel 2. The dial to the right allows for gain control. This will increase how loud the microphone's input is for that channel. Be careful. If the gain is too loud, it could distort, and if it is too quiet, it could be called muddy and may result in noise when turned up in editing. Lastly, you have the menu button. This allows you to change the settings of your camera. You will leave most of them alone, but some things can save you headaches down the line. Control the menu with a selector wheel and use it as a button. There are a few things you want to make sure of before you start recording. To make sure your SD card works with your camera, and to wipe it clean, scroll to Other Function and select Format Media. Then select your SD card. This will erase the SD card of all of its data and make sure the card works on that camera. If you have multiple SD cards, you can choose which to record to by going to Record Setup and choose Media Select. Then select your SD card. In the Camera Setup menu, make sure Scene Mode is set to Off. In System Mode, make sure the recording mode is the correct type of file you want. This is the type of file your video will save as on your SD card. When in doubt, ask your professor which one they would prefer you to record as. Next, make sure the recording format is correct. This lets you adjust the resolution and frame rate. This is different for each recording mode and can vary from project to project. Ask your professor what frame rate they want the project to be recorded and turned in as. If you want guidelines and a center marker to better frame your subjects, go to Display Setup and select Guidelines. Choose which one works better for you. Then scroll to the center marker and turn it on. Let's go over the general layout and button functions of the camera. Starting at the front left side, you have your focus ring, then your zoom ring, and lastly your iris ring. Now let's take a look at the first 6 buttons. The top left button is your focus assist, the middle left is your focus mode, and the bottom left is your iris mode. The top right is your LCD monitor, the middle right shows your exposure or zebra, and the bottom right is your on-camera stabilization. The bottom row of buttons is your camera's menu, the selector wheel which doubles as a button, the gain mode, white balance mode, the shutter mode, and the automatic and manual mode selector. The first cover on your left is your SD card slots. The camera can hold 2 SD cards. The second cover is your audio panel. Here you can select your audio inputs between line, mic, and phantom power. You can also choose your audio channels and increase or decrease the channel's gain. The top of the camera has a few buttons. The LED light control turns on and off the on-camera light. The thumbnail button allows you to see what is on your SD card. The zoom button zooms in and out. The red button is the record button. On the right side of the camera, you have another zoom button, the on-off switch, and another record button. There are 3 more panels on this side of the camera. The top one lets you plug the camera into a power supply and lets you plug headphones in to monitor your recording. The bottom one lets you plug a camera remote and audio-video RCA cables to go to an external monitor. The back cover has 2 USB ports and an HDMI cable as well. The back is also where the battery goes into the camera. Lastly, there's a viewfinder and the LCD monitor. When in doubt, ask your professor for help.